Tiger King shirt on for the
Joe Exotic action?
Yes.
Nice.
I should make it clear that I don't condone animal cruelty, and I'm not a super fan, but I did like Tiger King, the show.
Plus 615.
What's up, Ouch Quit?
Ouch Quit?
Kenneth?
Mr. Ouch Quit, first one in. What's good, man? How you
Hey,
doing?
Doc.
Congratulations on your daughter getting married. I think that's awesome.
Yes. Erica.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. Wow,
Big John.
1,376 people.
C-Dub, what's up? Yo, yo.
So it should be a pretty fun conversation. Not really sure what to expect. So somebody we met at National.
Literally had a 5-minute conversation.
Yep.
I have a video of this product. I'm going to start by saying, we don't get paid to do any of these. These are just people that we meet, we talk to.
There's my guy, Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Nate, what's good, brother?
So I don't want it to feel like it's an infomercial or anything, but this product was super cool. And I think it's neat to kind of talk about people that are making their way in the hobby in different and interesting ways. We all are in this and doing fun things, and this was a really cool product, and these were super nice people. So I definitely wanted to, reach out, show them. And I have a fun story about the product, what happened to me. So I'm going to add them right now.
Cage Lawyer, good evening, young man.
What's up, handsome?
I like the story about getting Ian the Zion Green Pulsar. That was good stuff.
Yes. Spoiled as Steven. I went to say Ian and Steven, and it came out as
Ian pulls fire.
Yeah. Ian's got better luck. Manny doesn't come on this. You'll have to watch.
Manny's not good enough. Manny's not good enough for this. He's too thick.
Well, hello, sir.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Good. We're good. How are you? Do you remember us?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, yeah. We obviously met a ton of people, but yeah, you guys were one of the first ones that came over and got involved and got a kit, and definitely appreciate the business and loving being able to be on the show.
Not one kit, but 2 kits, because Courtney.
That's what I'm talking about.
Cards, set the original one down and it was lost, so we came back with 2.
Yeah, I had to get another one because I'm
awesome.
an idiot. I was selling cards and I had 2 bags, and I set the bag that had the Slab Magic kit in it on the ground, and I walked away. So somebody got a free kit. You're welcome.
Oh my! Hopefully they destroyed a few cards or cases with it. Karma sucks. No, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but yeah, no, it's the hobby's fun, and it's something, we've got a few other businesses in this. We also have Sports Wax Promotions out of North Carolina. We do some shows out of there. Shout out to Sports Wax Promotions. If you guys are in the Charlotte or North Carolina area and want to get in on a show, reach out to them and us, and we'll get you guys set up, tables and stuff like that. But it's like everyone else. I was a kid. We started collecting as a kid, and then probably in my late teens, somehow during a move, all that junk wax got thrown out. No big deal. probably a few $100 worth. During the pandemic, it was probably 10, 20 grand worth. But all that got thrown out, and I got away from collecting for a long, long time. I'm huge memorabilia guys. You see some of the stuff in here. We're just setting this new office up, so it's not all put together yet. But ton of memorabilia stuff. Huge Bills and Josh Allen fan my whole life. On the Bills stuff, not Josh Allen. And I got back into the game accidentally. It was I followed Degenerate Gambler, followed Vegas Dave for a very long time, and probably.
So were you burning Jordans with him?
What's that?
Were you burning Jordans with him?
No, I didn't burn any Jordans. But when he bought that Mike Trout card, I was following him, and he bought, I think it was like an $800,000, $900,000 Mike Trout card. He said I'm gonna sell it for $3.5 million. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I was always looking for avenues to make money. And the lovely Facebook algorithm pulled up. I'm in the marketplace, and all of a sudden, after watching that video, here comes LeBron James rookie card, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll buy a LeBron James. He's pretty good. And I went and met the people. I looked at the card. I didn't know much about it, but it looked like a nice card. I ended up getting it for like $350, and then like 2 months later, the card went to like $3,000, and then it just kept climbing and climbing. And that was enough to get me excited about the hobby again. And that was early 18. And the Bills had just drafted Josh Allen. So I got a couple of his cards. I didn't, nobody knew he was going to be what he is in the beginning. But I did love Patrick Mahomes. I'd seen the kid. I thought he was going to be really good. So I started buying some Mahomes stuff. And then Brady's our nemesis. But I was like, this is about money. This isn't about who I love at this point. So let me get some Brady rookies. And then that year, the year after, we signed Stephon Diggs in the offseason. And as soon as we did, I went crazy on Josh Allen cards. But still being new to the hobby, I didn't know exactly which ones to buy and all that good stuff. But as I started getting these cases in from eBay, I start looking at them like, man, this would be really nice if it didn't have all these scratches and these scuffs and all these issues. And of course, everyone takes the best pictures from the right angle, because no matter how bad the case is, generally speaking, you can find an angle where you're not going to see the scratches and the scuffs. And, most people just let it go. But I'm a little OCD about that stuff. So I started Googling and searching, and I found Plastex, they said works great by McGuire's, and then people swore by the headlight restoration kit from Turtle Wax, and then there was a company called Novus that makes a plastic polish. And I would sit there and just wear my fingers out on these things, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. So I ended up with a buddy of mine who, a little bit of a chemist, and we started looking at how these cases, the types of plastic, and realizing there's a difference between the plastic that these are made out of and headlights and other things. It's a much harder, firmer, thicker plastic in most cases, unless it's PSA. PSA cases are actually really soft and really easy to scratch. And that's when I started getting, I'd send a submission in, I'd get my submission back, I'd start pulling them out of the envelopes, and they're already got streaks and scratches in them that won't come out. And I'm like, I just paid all this money to have this done, and this is what you're sending me. So kind of left a bad taste, but on the same token, it just kind of pushed me. And then one night I was sitting working on one of my watches, and I started taking scratches out with a product that we kind of developed. And I'm like, why wouldn't this work on plastic if it's working on this metal? So kind of translated it over and then made some adjustments. And, we started putting the process together with the polishing papers, which you guys have seen those. Those actually came from a little bit of the watch industry. And then the polishes, we had to find a polish that would take those scratches out once we put those in. So, the way the product works, and you guys have seen it, but obviously everybody else hasn't, for the most part, it takes out just about anything in the card that's surface stuff, that's easy stuff, that's not too deep. You can't really feel the scratch. The polishes take those out with no problem in a few seconds. But if it is a deeper scratch, we have to take some of those surfaces down and actually, take a few layers of that down to get down past that scratch, which is what the papers do. And then we just polish it out with that. We've seen, obviously I can't show it right now, but if you guys go to our page and take a look, we had a Greg Bird, and I know it's Greg Bird, but the guy brought us this card. And he's like, here, if you can fix this one, I'll give you this one for promotional materials. See if you can fix it. Because we put a post up on Instagram saying, hey, bring us your worst card. And literally, he brought us a case that was destroyed. And you could see, Greg was behind there, but you couldn't see him. And literally 15 minutes later, I handed it back to him. He goes, you keep it. That is amazing. Give me a kit, and I'll be moving on. And then the funniest one, we were literally the first day we set up, right after you guys left, actually. It was towards the end of the first day. One of my buddies was at a booth, literally 5 booths over from us.
Yeah.
And the guy had I can't remember who the player was. I think it was a mantle. I think it was a mantle. And it had some really deep scratches at the bottom of the case. And the guy literally put on the case, cannot be fixed, must be reslabbed. And he wanted like $1,400 for it, which is what the card was worth if it didn't need to be reslabbed. And my buddy goes, well, look, we give me the card for $700. And obviously, it's by the time I get it reslabbed, gets card back. So the guy goes, you know what? It's been sitting here and everybody doesn't want it. Go ahead and take it. So they turned around. He goes, well, now what if I could fix it? He goes, it's not going to happen. Everybody's tried. So he brought it over to me, and I'm looking at it, and literally someone had put like glue or something in the cracks to try and build it back up, and it made it even worse. So I grabbed it and I worked on it. The guy gave me 8 minutes because they were closing. And in 8 minutes, I brought it back over to him. I said, what do you think? He goes, that's not my car. I said, no, it's not anymore, but it would have been. I said, literally, you were 30 feet and $39 away from getting all the money for this card had you just, and obviously he couldn't move. He was like us. We're, stuck in our booth, but it was just that kind of thing where it was, so close to be in that situation. And after he saw it, of course, he bought a kit. we just kind of want to kind of build from there. And, we've been building, literally the Nationals was our launch. And that's where we kind of got the product out there and got it in people's hands and, did a bunch of cleanups for everybody so they could see it with their own eyes, because I'm as skeptical as everybody else. And like when I post the pictures and the videos, I'm like, I wouldn't believe this if I was someone else, because I've tried all this other stuff and I know it doesn't work. So it's like, the only option would be to reslab these cards. But, we're moving into, and this is, the other thing that I'm looking at is, if we are moving into recession, if we are, we're getting a correction in the card business and the collectibles and everything else. I mean, everything's kind of correcting at this point. Having clean, nice slabs is what's going to help you sell your stuff and get it out there and get the top dollar for it. If you got stuff that's scuffed up and scratched up, you're going to get bad reviews. You're not going to get repeat and referral customers. And that's the kind of part of the business that I'm kind of pushing towards. My background is automotive industry, and I kind of retired from that about 4 or 5 years ago, and started looking at other things and kind of entrepreneuring at that point. And the way you sold the nice car was to make it look better than everyone else's and, have it mechanically sound. So that's where it comes down to cards is, if you're going to be in this business, or, who wants to have a card in their PC where they hand it to somebody to look at and all they see is the scratches and the scuffs and the streaks. I mean, it really takes away from the beauty of these cards. And that's why we buy them, is because they're awesome to look at. And, we don't want to stick them in a closet somewhere. We want to be able to show them to people.
I think it's so cool how passionate you are. You literally just talked for like 9 minutes about, I'm like wildly impressed, like with like the passion behind your, what you're talking about. Like,
easiest interview ever.
I know. I was just thinking, I'm like, you answered all my questions.
All right. Well, what questions do you guys have?
Quick. I'm like, I should. No, it's great. But like, so let's kind of talk about some of this, because I think it's so cool that now you got into collecting because you just like, you collected as a child. You fell back into it, and now here you are taking something that you were passionate about. Yep. Social promoter. That's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, I get distracted because I have ADD when it comes to this. So anyway, so you're so passionate about your cards and everything, and now you've turned this into something not only where you're helping people, but you can make money off of it.
100%.
And it's in something that you love to do. Like, this is the dream, right? That's what everybody wants to do. Like, think of something that's innovative in the hobby, be in you get to spend your time at card shows selling something that is helping people. That's super cool. So, and you said the National was your launch. How long were you guys working on this before you launched?
2 years.
Wow.
Literally since, well, I mean, honestly, before that, but I kind of gave up. Like I said, I started collecting in like 2017, 2018. I got passionate about it in 19, and then everything blew up in 2020 with the pandemic. But I had already accumulated most of the cards I was doing. I already had these cards. And it was my bigger problem, and this is the other advantage to this economy and this situation we're in now and the product, is the biggest problem with this, you only have one other option, that's reslab the card. Well, when you do that, number one, you've got to pay for that. You got to wait on shipping to and from. And then how long is it going to take PSA and BGS to reslab your card? 3 months, 4 months if you're lucky. So how much is that market going to change? Could it change on that card where you can't sell it? And it's like another kid. There was a kid who was probably, he was like 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. And he came to me on day 2. And he had this 895 Aiden that he was trying to sell. And he's like, man, I've been trying to sell this everywhere and I can't. Can you please clean it for me? I said, yeah, bro. He didn't buy a kit, nothing. I cleaned it for him. He's like, oh my God, that's awesome. He came back the next day. He's like, I want to buy a kit. I was like, okay. He goes, but I got to tell you a story. I'm like, what? He goes, I showed that card to probably 30 or 40 people for 2 days and they wouldn't buy it because it was all scratched up. You cleaned it and I sold it in 10 minutes from the time I left your booth. He said, there's nothing else I could do but come back and buy one from me at that point.
I think one thing that's important is that kid had a good hobby experience and he's going to stick around. And it
transformed. It could have been really bad because he's sitting there struggling, just trying to get some money for this card, and he can't get anybody. And then all of a sudden, bam, there's money.
So not only did you get the ROI that he bought one of your kits the next day, but now he's had a good experience and he'll go on to keep his money in this industry that we want and continue 100%. To grow it. One thing that 100%. We noticed when we were talking to you, We love to support small business, and we love to support innovation within the hobby, whether or not we personally think it's going to fail or succeed. To us, as long as the person that is promoting or doing whatever it is they're doing, that we feel like their heart is in the right place, we're going to support. And so when we were sitting there chatting and you offered to clean a couple of cards completely free, one thing that stuck with me is, like, you had mentioned you were getting really close to just being done with it. And I think it was maybe one night you had a couple of adult beverages, something along those lines.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden,
and
like,
bam, it's like, wow.
And so I think it's, again, like, piggybacking off of what Court said, like, I think it's wildly impressive that there was a need for something, you innovated, and you were able to bring it to market.
I can't express, like, we have a couple other people, like, this is something I want to, like, talk about moving forward with, like, several other people that are doing, like, hobby. It's like hobby adjacent. Like, you're not selling cards, you're not, you know, subbing, you're not inspecting cards, you're literally selling a product to people in the hobby that they need for their product, but it's not necessarily cards. So to me, it's hobby related, hobby adjacent, whatever you want to call it. But we need stuff like this. These are the kind of things that is going to continue to grow the hobby. You have people, like you were talking, with the economy changing, who can't necessarily even afford to send their cards in to get reslabbed. You know, we have cards that if we went and got them reslabbed, they're expensive cards. And being able to just clean them and get rid of the scratches and buff them and do all of this, that is, like, significantly better. And one kit, you can do multiple cards, like, even if it wasn't, so to me, it's just the thought behind it, and, like, and going for it. It's like one of those great stories where you see people that are like, this is something I'm passionate about. You can make money, because regardless of whether or not you're selling cards to people, this is something that they're gonna need, and you have the ability to spend your time within an industry that you love. So it's like win-win-win.
Oh, it is. And that's one of the bigger things is, you know, you're right. I am very passionate about it, but it's one of those things where, you know, it was an issue to me, and had it been an easy fix where I found out that Plastex works, and I could have just done a YouTube video and helped people for free, that would have been great, because it would have been a lot less money invested, a lot less time and effort. And you guys know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy. The hours are insane. The amount of time that I personally put into this, just because I was on such a short, literally it was 3 weeks before the national, 4 weeks before the national, that we finally got the right recipe, the right process, the right everything down. And then it was supply chain issues. How can I get my stuff branded and shipped from, you know, wherever I can get it from? And literally these bottles, literally I myself for 3.5 days straight, 10-hour days, bottled all this stuff myself. Because we couldn't get a company fast enough to get it done and get them shipped back to us. Everybody's going to be after the national. So we wanted to make sure we had, you know, 500 to 1,000 kits just to launch for the national. So I literally sat and bottled this. Now I had a nice machine to do it, but there's a lot of time and effort put into it, and a ton of money. I mean, obviously producing the products, those papers are extremely expensive when you're buying those in bulk. And then putting the kits together, I had to pay somebody to put the boxes together and fold everything up and put it in there and package everything and put the labels on. So, you know, it was a fun process, but it was also stressful down to the end. I'll say that.
Let me ask you this: for people who aspire to create a business inside the hobby, whether it's doing memes, Octane, what up? Whether it's, you know, buying or selling a product, whether it's just flipping cards, what are some challenges that you faced and some lessons learned that you can share with, you know, fellow entrepreneurs or hobbyists who are going to make a go at trying to make, you know, either a side hustle or a living out of participating and running a business?
I'm a multi-time failed and successful entrepreneur. So I've done well, and I've lost a good chunk of money a few times. So that it's a positive and a negative. Because when you've been beat down once or twice, it's really easy to fall back into those feelings and be like, this is stupid. I'm not going to be able to do this. So, I mean, the biggest thing is you got to stay positive. The passion is huge. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. The hours that are involved in being an entrepreneur are just insane. I've got a buddy who started cards, young kid, who started in cards during the pandemic. He turned like 40 grand and almost $200,000. And then the last few months, it's not been going well for him, but his problem is he's lost his passion. He's not at shows every weekend. He's got a girlfriend, so he's not spending the time hustling like he was. So now it's, the biggest thing for an entrepreneur is you have to know it's not a 9 to 5. It's a 24-hour a day deal. The first business I started, I did it all by myself. The other thing is you have to learn, you have to delegate some stuff. You have to have people around you that you can trust if you're going to scale. If you're looking for something small, then yeah, you can do a lot of that yourself. Husband and wife team can do it together. My problem is I've always had a significant other that is very busy doing their own thing. So it's not like, I don't expect you to work 10 hours and then come home and help me with my stuff. Once in a while, if I'm in a pinch, she'll come help me out. But for the most part, like she helped bottle. She did help me a couple nights with that after work. But, it's one of those things where you've got to be ready for the sacrifices and just, be passionate about it. And then just have something that you believe in. And if you believe in it and it works, then you're going to be able to make money at it. That's why, just little hustlers, I was telling guys, the young kids that would come up at the booth and they'd see this, like, wow. I was like, now buy a kit and just go around to these tables and look for these bad cards and buy them up cheap and clean them up and resell them. I mean, that alone will save. Not only that, take the kit home, tell all your friends, hey, I can fix all your slabs for $5 a piece. Who's going to tell you no when they're getting ready to reslab it anyway for 50 or 100 or whatever it's going to cost them? It's an easy little deal. And we had one of the testimonials we had was a group. They owned a store in Wantagh, New York. And that was the thing. They were putting their son in the back and they were going to have cleaning up slabs. They bought a couple kits for that. And then, they want to get an distributor agreement where they can actually start selling the kits in the store too. So, there's just, you've got to find a niche, find where you fit. And then you got to go for it. I mean, at that point, it's go all in. And if you fail, you fail. I mean, you have to take some risks in this world, especially as an entrepreneur. I'm not telling anybody to go quit their day job, today. That's one of those things where if you can work a 10-hour day and then you can still put 8-10 hours in doing this, or 5 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. I had the ability where I wasn't doing anything else during this project, so where I could dive, head first. And that made it a little bit easier. But, time is a big issue for people. And then just, the stick-to-itiveness of just, putting your nose down and saying, I'm going to make this work. And it's like my buddy the other day, I was pitching another business idea to him. He's like, man, work on the one you got. And that's one of my problems is I do get a little ADHD and I'll start, I find like during this, I found 3 other products that we're going to launch that help in cleaning the actual cases, and then also some card cleaning techniques that we got, and also working on a station type situation that actually cleans cards or preps them that we're working on getting a patent for and developing that too. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the works on our end that keep me going. And it's just one of those things where you got to find that's what everybody says. You want to be a millionaire. Find a problem that people can't fix, solve the problem, and show them you can solve it, and you'll make money. And this was one of those things where even if I sold 5 kits, it wouldn't have mattered to me. It was the fact that I was able to fix my problem that was bothering me so much and saved me from having to go through all these struggles. And now I just want to share it with the world at that point. It's like I know I'm not the only one in this industry that has this problem.
So at one point when PWCC launched, I was going on there and I was buying as many low-end slabs as possible, getting them in hand, turning around and selling on eBay and 2 and 3xing my money, just rinse and repeat. I would imagine if I'm you and I'm doing some R&D on this product, I'm looking for, scratched cases where there's an opportunity where not only are you testing your product, but then you're going to go and sell it and get more closer to what market value would be because you don't have a beat up slab.
It was a great opportunity.
Was that an arbitrage opportunity you took advantage of?
Well, my problem, my fortunate problem was I had so many scratched up slabs that I had enough work. Problem was is though after about 2 or 3, probably about 5 or 6 days, I'd cleaned so many that I was running out. So that's when I started actually taking knives to cases, 200 grit sandpaper. I mean, I literally, we were having this conversation earlier. There's a video I just put up where we were working with different products. We tried everything. And then one of the other things was that people kept saying, use a Dremel. And I was like, this just seems dangerous for the average person. And I said, I bet you could probably burn a hole in one of these pretty quickly. And I'm actually doing the video in a comparison, and all of a sudden I burned 4 holes in this Josh Allen card. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, there you go. This can happen. Don't use a Dremel. So, and I'm sitting there looking at it.
That's dangerous.
And I didn't think I could fix the card. I was like, so I put it aside. I literally, for like a week and a half, I was like, I'm not going to mess with this. And a week and a half later, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm polishing it. And that's the other thing, is it's so addictive. Once you start cleaning up your cards and you see how beautiful they are again and how much color there is behind these cards and how they refract, you want to clean them up. And so I was sitting there one night and I just started sanding on this case. And I said, let me see if there's enough plastic left here. And I got all the holes out and I left one in the bottom because I said, no one's ever going to believe that I did this. They're going to say that this was recased. So I said, I'm going to leave that hole in the bottom. So when I do advertising with this card, that hole will be there to show that, this isn't BS. It actually works. The problem is I didn't realize it was a Josh Allen silver prism. I was working on base cheap prisms, $150 case card. And I actually did this to a bad one. And someone out there, if you're watching, actually bought that card at the National, and I didn't realize it. It still has a hole in the bottom of it, and I'm sorry. But we can fix it. But it was one of those things where I was looking at the pictures. It was actually 2 nights ago when I was making the reel up, and I looked at the picture, I go, that's a silver prism. That's not a regular prism. And it was one of those situations where I was like, oh my God. And I started thinking, I was like, where's that card? And I was like, oh, I traded it to somebody. And it was like, oh. But, that's one of those things where it's just, if you're looking to make money out of something and you're going to be an entrepreneur, make sure you enjoy it. And that's one of the biggest things for me, is getting the testimonials, getting people like you guys come back and say, hey, I did this, I did that, or thank you so much, my card looks beautiful again. I've got some guys that are just really small collectors. I have a couple guys that bought some kits last week, and they had like 10 or 15 cards, and they're sending me pictures every day of all 10 of their cards cleaned up. And it's like, you can tell, and it's like you said, they're younger guys in the hobby that could have been turned off, or weren't as excited about it. They're all of a sudden excited again because now all their cards are looking great.
The first thing we did when we got home is we have a couple of display cases, and it like really irks the shit out of me when there's a blemish or something that just like, I don't know if it's OCD, maybe I'm a weirdo, but it was like nice just to make them clean.
Yeah.
Make them shine again.
Well, and that was one of the other things while we were there, is I started working on some of the cases that were in front of the guys, and they're like, oh, this does work. I was like, yeah, you're gonna need a little more product, but yeah, you can clean up cases. Just about anything.
Yeah.
And
we have like the acrylic cases that we take to shows, people set their stuff on it and they scratch it, or it's like scuffed. It took that right out of those too. It was like, I'm like, this is fabulous. So.
And that's the crazy part, is I built a better headlight restoration kit than the headlight restoration kit company. But I'm not going that road yet. We're gonna stick with the cards right now. We'll try and conquest that later.
So what are you doing to promote Slab Magic? Are you going to any of the big shows? You're going to be at Burbank? You're going to be at Dallas? Or you're going to be at Hofstra? What's the game plan?
We are going to do the Dallas show at some point. The biggest thing is getting enough product ready. I wanted to roll it out online. We're doing, the Instagram page just started, the Facebook page just started. It's a slow grow thing. We know how this works. And it's going to be spending those ad dollars to kind of get behind it. But yeah, I've got some guys that are kind of ready to start hitting those shows. Some of these younger guys that are looking for opportunities. And if anybody else is out there and is going to a big show, we can send you the tent out. We can set you up with cases and, split the profits with you. If anybody's going to those shows, if you guys are going to those shows, you want to get involved, you can too. But that's the biggest thing now, is just getting the time into it. And, the more and more repeat and referral business we start getting, we can grow out of that. But the biggest thing was we got a good launch at the National. We got a lot of good material, and we got, really good reviews. And now it's the last 2 businesses I built on my cell phone through social media, and I'm half blind because of it. And that's true story. Halfway through this process, one night I was sitting there and I cleaned this case up and it looked perfect. And I went to bed. And the next morning I go back down and I take it outside and I'm like, oh no, this doesn't work. I almost convinced myself that I tricked myself into thinking something was working and it wasn't. I just got so delirious and tired, I forgot that it was a different case that I had finished. It wasn't that one. So Slab Magic almost died one night for no reason, because I literally convinced myself that it wasn't going to work and I was an idiot. And, the the more I started messing with it, I was like, oh, it wasn't that card that I finished, it was this one. So
There's
yeah,
odd
that's
stuff going
one of the
on in
biggest things is just
15 hours.
being able to pass that along. And then as we build, guys like you guys that'll put us in the shows and stuff like that, that's what we're looking for. And it's not one of those things where I'm trying to scale it overnight. It's kind of, this was a hobby thing. And it's turning into a money thing, but it's not one of those things where, we need to blow it up tomorrow, but obviously we'd love to, but it's one of those things where we're going to slowly roll it out and do it the right way and get the kind of grassroots movement. And then, yes, we'll start hitting some of the bigger shows and going from there.
So you're overwhelmingly hearing positive reviews about it from people.
I got my first bad message today. And it was me going back and following up with everybody that was at the National and just saying, hey, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for buying. How's everything working out? And then one kid's like, well, I cleaned up and literally he bought the card from me too. Oh. It was and I made a joke about it. It was late and we were closing up, and it was a Josh Allen Panini 1 encased card, and it did have some scratches. I was like, man, you're buying a scratched up case from the scratch guy. This is terrible. So I gave him a free case with the card. He didn't watch the video, unfortunately, and kind of dove in himself. And because it was an encased card, that's one of the problems with encased cards is they've got grooves down the side that aren't sealed. Oh. And you've got to watch the video and put that painter's tape around those edges and over the hollow, or you're going to destroy it. Well, he got a little bit in between the case, and he was upset about it. And I told him how to fix it. Literally, it's not a problem. Once that dries, you just take a piece of sheet of paper and slide it between. It wipes right out. So he was cool about that. He did that, and he's cool about that. And then he's like, well, I've tried to polish once, and it really didn't take those scratches. I said, send me a picture of it. And I saw there were some deeper ones. I said, well, here's what you got to do. And I walked him through it. 5 minutes later, he's like, man, thank you so much. I'm sold now. This is awesome. So generally speaking, if people take the time to watch, and the YouTube video is not short, it's 30 minutes long. And we're going to do some smaller, shorter segments for, specific things. But again, to roll that out and the money we had to spend, stuff like that is not cheap to get it professionally done like that. For the editing and the 4K videos and all that stuff. So, again, we did that in a few hours right before the National. I did that 3 days before the National so we could roll out. I said, I can't roll out this product without having some kind of video tutorial, or it's not going to work. It's one of those things and it's also one of those things where you got to work at it. You got to practice and see, how does this scratch come out? How does that one come out? What happens if this happens? And we cover all that in the video. But again, it's one of those things where, and we encourage everybody, grab just a one touch that's no card in it, scratch it up and practice on it. And you'll see what takes out each scratch and how much effort and time is involved. Because, when I first started, it would literally take me 45 minutes to an hour to get scratches out of this case. And I'm like, oh man, no one's going to want to do this. And the more I played with it and got the process down, I'm like, okay, now I've got it down to 10 minutes or 15 minutes for a really bad one, and 35 seconds to a minute for an average one. Now it makes sense to people that they're going to put that effort in. I would still personally put the effort in on a card that I loved and didn't want to have to pay the fees and be without the card for 3 months and worry about getting stolen or lost in the mail.
Well, not only that, if you really think about it, how many times have you had something slabbed where they got damaged in the reslabbing process because you have to pop it out? I get fearful. So, I'm like, yep. If I crack this out or if they crack it out, I had a card that I sent into a grading company one time, and it was raw, but in the grading process, they smashed my card, and it was ruined.
Happened to me at the National. I had a PSA, I had a perfect, and I mean this card, I've got pictures of it before, and there's nothing I can do now. I can't prove it, but I had a Tua silver auto, and everyone that looked at this card with me, we cleaned it. It was perfect. I said, there's no way this thing doesn't get a double dime. Gave it to PSA. I got it back 2 days later. It was an 8 and with a 10 signature, a 10 auto. And I was like, I am going to crack this and embarrass them. I'm going to take it to BGS. I'm going to prove that their grading sucks. I was livid. I was like, I know this card's a 10. And then I started looking at it, and there was a fresh scratch in the card that I know 100% was not there when I turned that card into PSA. So 100% that can be an issue, and not knocking PSA. I love you guys, but there's some things going on with them. And I said this when I first got in the hobby, and people were talking about PSA, and I started looking. I'd get cards in that were PSA 10s. I'm like, this isn't a 10. There's no, I mean, it's off center, there's issues in the card, but the guys that owned PSA before these guys that bought it, they had a brilliant business model. Everyone in the hobby, I was new to the hobby, but I knew if you had a card that was slightly edgy, send it to PSA and you'll probably get a 10. And that's the way it was. And they bought the business giving out all these 10s. I mean, just all you have to do is look at their books. I mean, their 10-to-9 ratio is insane. Like, most cards have 2 to 3 times as many 10s as they do 9s. Now go to BGS and find out how many 9.5s to 9.9s there are. And there's always 3 to 4 times as many 9s and 8s as there are 9.5s. So, I mean, they built up these books. They made themselves look great. Everyone sent them their cards. And then they sold the business for millions of dollars. I'm not going to fault them. It was brilliant. I don't think it was the right thing for the hobby in the long run. But now PSA is trying to balance those books out so things don't look so crazy. So, I mean, some of these cards that I believe were a little bit nicer than what they are. And I think a lot of people at the National, everyone that I heard that did submissions were pretty upset. They weren't getting the 10s, and everyone thinks they got a 10. We're not graders. We don't know what we're getting. But last quick story, I was over there submitting my cards, and probably an 80-year-old guy, 75, 80 years old. He was livid. I mean, his face was red. I was like, "Sir, are you okay?" He's like, "No." He's like, "I want a manager now." I'm like, "What's wrong?" He literally had a cereal box card from like the 30s, 40s. And I've never seen anything more perfect. I mean, like, literally sharp edges, sharp corners, not a blemish on the front or the back. The back, sometimes they would have those stains and stuff on them. This card was perfectly perfect. And they gave the guy like a 4 or a 5. And when the manager came over, literally the guy started trying to speak. He said, "Stop." He said, "I graded cards professionally for 15 years. This is not a 5. And literally everybody was standing around, looked at it like, "That's crazy." And then the guy right next to him was trying to cross over a Josh Allen cracked ice Contenders auto. It literally had 9.5 centering, 10 edges, 10 surface, and 9.5 corners, and they wouldn't cross it. And this guy was so honest, and I don't know if he was honest or not the smartest guy in the world, but when he submitted it at the $50,000 value. So he paid $3,700 for them to tell him it wasn't a 10 and hand him back his card. And I'm like, how? I'd never send you another card if you did that to me. I mean, but I would have sent it in as a $49.99 card and paid my $240 and wait for the upcharge. But they were keeping his $3,800 for that card and handing him his card back in the BGS case. So I mean, there's some stuff going on, and I know there's some other grading companies that are starting to come up out there that are really starting to get some traction, but I don't think you can overthrow PSA. They've just got too much of a foothold and too much brand recognition at this point. I just hope they do the right things moving forward and can kind of help people out. But in the meantime, rather than having to reslab your cards, I'll help them out.
Does your stuff work on like all the slabs, or are there some that?
I have not run into one. CSG, SGA, BGS, and the only thing I'm having problems with are these guys. They're driving me nuts. This is a coin because it's not for our hobby, but I'm trying to keep all the hobbies. And comic books, CGC, we're awesome on. This is the only thing, this plastic, I've not cracked yet. So we're going back to the drawing board on that and trying to come up with a product for those later on.
Like
after we get Slab Magic done completely and really rolled out and rolling. But no, all the cases pretty much, everyone uses a very similar plastic. The only one that's BGS is the hardest by far. But they have this inherent, and even when you get them back, there's these swirls. And they're the hardest part to get out. You can get 98, 99% of them out in Slab Magic, but there's some that are always going to be, and they come, when you get them straight back from them, it's just in that plastic. Their cards are harder to mess up, but they're also harder to fix. But they're also more forgiving. So if you get a deep scratch on one of those, this plastic is so thick, you can literally take layer after layer after layer after this, and you won't have any issues. PSA, if it gets too deep, you can start to see some kind of concaving in the case. And that's why I tell people, you're good for probably 1, maybe 2 deep scratches on a PSA case, and you'll be okay. After that, you're pushing it because those cases are a little bit thinner and they do get closer and closer to the card. And that's when you start to get that concave, and then you're going to probably have to re-slab at that point. But that's
like, oh, we can just fix everything and it'll be perfect. You have to if you're not up front, then that's when you start to I respect that. That's like the best.
100%, 100%. No,
So
and that was the biggest thing, is just getting each one, like BGS cases are a little bit different process, but PSA, SGC, all those are pretty much the same. It's pretty easy, and they go pretty quickly.
That's so cool. So when we post this up, I'll put links to like the how-to videos so people can easily find it, because we put all of our Hobby Night schools up on YouTube. Why don't you like tell everyone where they can find you, so that
Okay.
you know, when they watch it, they're like, I want to try this stuff, like, because I'll link everything, but I always like to have it because we put this up on podcasts
100%.
so people can hear.
We're Slab Magic 1 on Instagram, obviously. We're Slab Magic LLC on Facebook. And then our website is slabmagic.com.
Okay.
And if anybody listening wants to get a promo code with you guys, and these guys will get compensated too, it's going to be Reckless10. So you just put in the promo code Reckless, RECKLESS 10, and they'll get 10% off. And then you guys will get a little something towards the show to kind of maybe give you some ad budget or whatever you guys are going to do with it.
I will leave with this. You cleaned 2 cards for us, and a few hours later we sold them. And so we're just going to chalk it up to the quality of your product. It had nothing to do with the card on the inside.
I appreciate that. I'm sure they were great cards, if I remember as well. But yeah, that's awesome.
So I will post that up, the before and afters of those cards, because I videotaped you doing it, because
awesome.
I don't know why you know how I know I'm old, as I say videotaped, and we don't videotape. I recorded it, so I do have a before and after that I can share with our followers and let them see.
Awesome. If you can send that to me too, that would be awesome.
So that's cool.
And that was my biggest problem. I was so passionate and having so much fun fixing people's cards. I forgot for the first 2 days to even take before and afters, to even get testimonials. So I mean, we had tons more, but you know, it was 2 or 3 days in before the entrepreneur in me kicked in, and the marketing guy, as opposed to the guy just wanted to help people. I just wanted to help people. I was so excited. Oh my God, check it out.
I'm crazy though, so like hopefully you'll have other people like me that I just record everything that I'm doing, because then I can look back and think like, oh, this was good, or like this isn't, or I liked this. So that was, I mean, like going back through my content that I made at the show was like how I was like, oh, I'm gonna reach out to him and see if he wants to come on and talk about his product, and you know, a couple other things. So I didn't know you were gonna do a promo code. That's super cool. I'll make sure that I share that so people can, you know,
please do
get a discount. You don't have to give us anything. That's fine. I appreciate the discount for our followers. That's super cool.
No problem.
And yeah, so we will, we look forward to sharing our, you know, our experience with it. And it was so nice of you to join us tonight. And I have to tell you, I'm like, once again, super like impressed with your passion, like for what you're doing. And, it was great meeting you. It was great talking tonight.
Same. Hopefully it's a lifelong friendship moving forward.
Absolutely.
Love to see you guys at some more shows and all that good stuff. And again, that's one of the other things, because of that passion. It's like, you know, like Plastex or all these other things, you buy them, there's no one going to help you. You know, we offer full chat support, full email support. If you run into any problems, just send us a picture of the slab. We'll tell you exactly what to do with it your first couple times going through it. You know, if it can't be fixed, we'll tell you right up front. Don't even waste your time. And I've not seen one yet that couldn't be. But if like the only thing that really can be an issue is if the scratch is actually a crack, and you can't tell until you actually get into it. You can tell usually you can see the difference between a scratch and a crack. And the worst one I saw, unfortunately, at the show, and this is my last story, is this guy brought me this card, and he brought it to one of the guys further down the table, and they're like, he's like, we can fix this. He's like, nah. So he brought it to me, and literally what he did was, when he bought the card, and I didn't know what the card was because I could not see the card. It was so bad that you could not see through it. So what happened was they had a sticker on it, and he peeled the sticker off, and it left some glue. So he bought glue gone. And someone said there's 2 kinds of glue gone. There's one that's like for asphalt, and there's one that's like for normal stuff.
Yeah.
But whatever he put on there, put a sheet of just this thick, and it turned into hard like plastic. And I was like, I think I can fix this, but I don't know. Give me a shot at this. I'll try. And literally in 5 minutes, I'm sitting there, I'm going, what the heck? 101. And I finally flipped the card over, and it was a Matt Ryan auto rookie 1 of 1 this guy's been holding on to for 2 years, he said, because he was terrified to send it in and get it reslabbed. And I was like, he's like, you just saved my life. This is so awesome. I'm definitely buying a kit. And I'll tell you. And again,
That's when
a
you
card
should
that I
have
should have taken a before and after of, and I didn't. And I kick myself daily.
Jinx.
That's a hobby fail, bud.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I hope you have a great night. Thank you for
You too. Thank you guys so much for having us on, and appreciate it. If there's anything we can do in the future, just let us know.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was nice talking.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.